Every haunting photograph of an extinct animal captures more than a lost species. It is evidence of human choices that wiped entire populations from the earth within a single century. By the time the last thylacine paced alone in a Hobart cage, or the skies fell silent after the final passenger pigeon, the damage was irreversible. Industrial expansion fueled a surge in extinctions so rapid that between 1500 and today, more than 700 vertebrates vanished. Now, 1 million species stand at risk. These final images do not just document extinction. They force us to confront the uncomfortable link between human progress and catastrophic loss. But what patterns unite these tragedies? And how many could have been prevented before the shutter clicked for the last time? By the mid-1800s, the world entered an era defined by steam, steel, and relentless expansion. Railways carved through forests, factories lined rivers, and cities ballooned in size, all powered by a hunger for progress that seemed impossible to satisfy. This industrial surge did not just transform landscapes. It redrew the boundaries between wild and human worlds, often erasing them altogether. As new technologies made travel and trade faster than ever, animals once abundant in remote corners of the globe found themselves exposed to unprecedented pressures. Hunters armed with repeating rifles and steamships could reach species that had survived for millennia in isolation. Colonial trade networks funneled exotic hides, feathers, and live creatures into European and American markets, fueling a craze for collecting and display that swept through museums and private estates alike. Photography, a marvel of the 19th century, became both a tool of wonder and a silent witness to loss. Early cameras, heavy and slow, captured the first images of animals already vanishing from their native habitats. Zoos and menageries, eager to showcase rare and spectacular creatures, offered the public a final glimpse, often unaware that the individuals on display would become the last of their kind. The culture of captive display, born from a mix of scientific curiosity and public spectacle, turned living beings into objects of fascination. Yet, as these animals paced behind bars or perched in artificial landscapes, their wild homes were being cleared for farmland, cities, and rail lines. Habitat loss, paired with relentless hunting and the introduction of invasive species, set off a wave of extinctions that moved faster than any previous natural event. The camera's lens, intended to document and celebrate the wonders of nature, became a double-edged instrument. Each photograph of a rare or exotic animal in captivity now stands as both a record and a warning. The very act of capturing an image often coincided with the species' final days, as collectors and scientists raced to document what was slipping away. In some cases, the last known individual was photographed not in the wild, but in a cage, its fate sealed by forces far beyond its control. The rise of industrial hunting, the appetite for natural curiosities, and the spread of colonial economies all converged to make extinction a regular feature of the modern world. The legacy of this era is etched into the glass plates and faded prints that remain, each one a fragment of a much larger story of ambition, exploitation, and irreversible loss. Benjamin, the last thylacine, spent his final days in a concrete pen at Hobart Zoo in 1936. Keeper diaries later revealed he was left exposed to the cold, with no shelter or heat, despite warnings as September temperatures dropped to 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Official records blamed disease, but internal memos pointed to neglect and budget cuts. The only surviving photograph, taken by an unnamed zookeeper with a plate camera, shows Benjamin pressed against the wire, his striped back turned, a portrait of extinction shaped by human omission. Martha, the last passenger pigeon, died in her cage at the Cincinnati Zoo in 1914. Once, these birds filled North American skies in flocks so vast they darkened the sun. By the time Morgan Wilcox pressed the glass plate shutter, Martha was alone, hand-fed and watched by curious crowds. Her death at 29 ended a species that vanished in less than a century, driven by relentless hunting and deforestation. The photo, now at the Smithsonian, is a record of abundance erased. The quagga, a plain zebra with a distinct brown and white coat, disappeared from the wild by the 1870s. The last one died in Amsterdam's Artis Zoo in 1883. Marius Vandermeer's wet plate collodion image, found in museum archives, shows the animal standing in straw, head lowered. The quagga's extinction came from unchecked hunting for hides and meat, with zoos requesting replacements, unaware they were witnessing a final specimen. Celia, the last Pyrenean ibex, was photographed in the Spanish mountains in 2000, wearing a radio collar for tracking. Days later, a falling tree killed her. Scientists tried to clone Celia from preserved tissue, briefly reviving the species, but a cloned kid lived only minutes. The digital snapshot remains the only visual record of a species lost twice, once in the wild and once in the lab. On Martha's Vineyard in 1932, a box camera captured the last heath hen, Booming Ben. He survived wildfires, disease, and relentless habitat loss, his solitary mating call echoing across empty fields. The amateur ornithologist who took the photo described Ben's final display as hopeful and haunting, a ritual now silenced forever. That image lingers as a quiet, hopeful tragedy. Lonesome George, the last Pinta Island tortoise, lived 4 decades in solitary captivity at the Charles Darwin Research Station. Fausto Lorena, his caretaker, photographed George in 2012. Despite global breeding efforts, no mate was found. George's image became a symbol for invasive species and overharvesting, sparking international campaigns and leading to a ban on non-native animals in the Galapagos. Tuffy, the last Rab's fringe-limbed tree frog, spent his final years in a glass tank at the Atlanta Botanical Garden. Smithsonian biologist Brian Gratwicki documented Tuffy in 2016, capturing the frog's mottled green skin pressed against condensation. After a fungal outbreak decimated his kind in Panama, Tuffy never croaked again. His photo circulated widely, prompting a surge in amphibian conservation funding and serving as a warning of how quickly disease can erase a species. Each photograph stands as a final record, evidence of the choices and failures that brought these species to their end. Across the world's leading conservation labs, the process of verifying a last photo begins with a chain of evidence as rigorous as any criminal investigation. Archival staff first seek out original negatives, glass plates, or prints, tracing their journey through museum accession logs and field notebooks. Every detail matters: a handwritten label, a faded date stamp, even the texture of the paper. When a candidate image surfaces, for example a sepia print of a vanished bird, technicians reach for tools designed to reveal the truth hidden in its fibers. X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy, called XRF, is a standard first step. By measuring the barium and strontium ratios in the Beretta layer of a print, scientists can pinpoint the manufacturing era, crucial for confirming whether a photograph could possibly show the last known individual of a species. A print claiming to capture the 1883 quagga, for example, must match 19th century Beretta chemistry. A modern forgery will betray itself through post-war additives or wood pulp fibers detected under microscopy. Radiocarbon dating adds another layer of certainty, especially for gelatin-based photos. Carbon-14 levels reveal whether the material predates the nuclear testing era, a clear threshold that separates authentic early images from later reproductions or fakes. Microscopy allows conservators to examine paper fibers and binding agents at high magnification. Cotton rag content, albumin coatings, and even fungal growth patterns can confirm an image's age and origin. For digital-era photos, analysts turn to embedded metadata, EXIF files, cryptographic signatures, and scan logs to track edits, provenance, and any tampering. Each method complements the next, forming a web of evidence that either holds or collapses under scrutiny. The reliability of these methods is more than academic. Since 1500, over 700 vertebrate species have vanished, their final images now central to conservation campaigns, legal protections, and public memory. Today, more than 1 million species face extinction, with amphibians suffering the sharpest declines. The Rab's fringe-limbed tree frog, lost to chytrid fungus, is one of over 40 amphibian species erased since 1980. With so much at stake, the authenticity of a last photo can influence funding, policy, and the very narrative of extinction itself. Institutional protocols demand that every candidate image undergo non-destructive testing before public display or digitization. At the Smithsonian, the Natural History Museum in London, and the Getty Conservation Institute, teams document every step, cross-referencing field notes, specimen tags, and correspondence to close gaps in provenance. Disputed images, such as the Tacopa pupfish print, undergo overlay analysis and community validation on archival platforms, with consensus reached only when technical and historical evidence align. Behind the scenes, the work of conservation lab staff is as much detective work as science. Their findings shape which images the world accepts as true memorials, evidence not just of what was lost, but of how we choose to remember. With extinction rates now running 100 to 1,000 times above natural background levels, the demand for trustworthy documentation grows ever more urgent. In an era where a single photo can spark global campaigns or ignite controversy over conservation priorities, the tools and protocols of verification are as vital as the images themselves. Colonial expansion redrew continents and erased species, each loss documented by the camera and the collector's ledger. The Barbary lion, once ruling North Africa's forests, was hunted for sport and royal gifts. By the 1920s, only a few survived in Morocco's mountains. The last wild lion, caught in a grainy Leica photograph, stares out with wary eyes. Its death, logged by colonial officials for museum display, marked the end of a lineage shaped by imperial hunts and the appetite for trophies. Colonial Algeria's Boubou hartebeest met a similar end. Herds once swept across the Sahel, but relentless hunting for meat and sport, coupled with the conversion of grasslands to wheat fields, left only scattered survivors by the late 1800s. The final captive, photographed in 1895 behind zoo bars, stands gaunt and defeated. Museum collectors fueled the chase, dispatching agents to secure the last specimens, accelerating extinction. Extinction. The Carolina parakeet, native to the American South's forests and swamps, vanished within decades after the Civil War. Its bright feathers, coveted for hats, and its reputation as an orchard pest led to mass shootings and poisonings. The last known bird died in 1918 at the Cincinnati Zoo, likely felled by disease introduced through the poultry trade. Its final portrait, a flash of green and yellow behind wire, preserves a memory of vanished song. Vanished. In Queensland, the paradise parrot faded almost without notice. Once common in grasslands, it fell to drought, overgrazing, and collectors eager for rare trophies. The last confirmed sighting in 1928, caught by a naturalist's camera, shows the bird perched on a fence post, feathers dulled by dust, the landscape already lost to cattle. Within months, the species was gone. Gone. The two-lake wallaby, famed for its leaps, clung to South Australia's marshes until the 1930s. Hunters prized its pelt, and draining wetlands for sheep sealed its fate. The last wallaby, photographed in a private menagerie, stands alert but cornered. Museum requests for mounted specimens outpaced any hope of survival. Sealed Caribbean monk. Seals once crowded sandy islands in the Gulf of Mexico. Their oil-rich blubber drew commercial hunters, and by the early 1900s, colonies vanished within years. The last expedition photo, snapped in 1952, shows a lone seal basking, unaware it would be the last. The species was declared extinct in 2008, its image a relic of a lost marine world. Extinct high in Costa Rica's cloud forests, the golden toad became a symbol of sudden loss. Discovered in 1966 and gone by 1989, its final photograph, taken by Robert Push, shows a single male, vivid orange against dark leaf litter. Chytrid fungus swept through, wiping out amphibians in months. The golden toad's image stands as evidence of an extinction driven by pathogens unleashed in a globalized world. Evidence. Each photograph is a silent witness to extraction, each loss tied to markets, collectors, and colonial ambition. Museums and private collections became archives of absence, the camera recording the cost of progress, species by species. Absence. Edward O. Wilson called extinction a crime against future generations, a moral debt that can never be repaid. For him, the disappearance of a species is not just a scientific loss, but an ethical failure that will haunt humanity for millennia. Wilson's words frame each vanished animal as a mirror, reflecting both our responsibility and the urgency to act before more are lost. Stuart Brand, founder of Revive and Restore, sees these same images as a challenge to innovate. Extinction used to be forever. Now it does not have to be. His team works to revive lost species using genetic technology, from sequencing the thylacine genome to reconstructing traits of the passenger pigeon. Brand's hope is rooted in the idea that human ingenuity, guided by conscience, can reverse even the most final environmental tragedies. Carl Jones, a conservation biologist, proved what is possible when action replaces despair. In the 1970s, only 4 Mauritius kestrels remained. Jones and his team hand-reared chicks, removed invasive predators, and restored habitat. Today, kestrels number in the hundreds, a recovery once thought impossible. Jones insists, extinction is a choice, not a fate. His work with the pink pigeon and echo parakeet shows that determined stewardship can pull species back from the edge. Patricia Wright, primatologist and founder of Madagascar's Ranamafana National Park in 1991, transformed a region once written off as lost. After rediscovering the greater bamboo lemur, she led efforts to protect its forest home. The park now shelters dozens of threatened species, proving that protected areas and community action can halt the cascade of loss. These voices show that solutions exist. But the scale of today's threats demands more than isolated victories. Extinction is not a distant memory. In the early 1980s, scientists photographed the gastric brooding frog in a Queensland laboratory, its young developing inside its stomach, a marvel lost to pesticide runoff and damming. By 1985, only images remained. The Bali tiger vanished under the weight of plantations and hunting. A 1937 photo taken by a Dutch officer is its last trace. The Caspian tiger once roamed river valleys and disappeared after Soviet dam projects and farmland expansion, last seen in a ranger photo from the 1970s in Iran. The Takopa pupfish, confined to a single Mojave spring, was erased by resorts and water diversions. A disputed 1938 photograph that served as its only proof has since been authenticated. The Cape lion, the largest of its kind, was hunted out by the 1860s, leaving behind a single daguerreotype. The ivory-billed woodpecker, last reliably photographed in 1944 in Louisiana, became a symbol of hope and loss. Recently, search funding shifted to AI-powered acoustic scans after decades of silence. Technology now races to keep up. AI systems like Wildlife Insight scan millions of images, flagging rare species with over 95% accuracy and alerting conservation teams in real time. CRISPR gene editing has produced nearly complete genomes for lost animals. In 2025, Colossal Biosciences edited thylacine DNA in marsupial stem cells, with surrogate trials on the horizon. Still, no extinct species has returned. Critics warn de-extinction may drain resources from the living, while others imagine a future where loss is no longer final. The choice is urgent. Act now, or let the next last photo become another epitaph. Right now, 1 million species face extinction within decades, driven by choices unfolding in real time. Advances like AI wildlife surveillance offer hope, but only if action follows awareness. The lesson these final images deliver is clear. Once a species vanishes, no technology or regret can bring it back. What we do next will decide which faces become tomorrow's ghosts. Share your thoughts below.